See if you can be deliberate about the posture, trying to roll the shoulders back a little bit so we're stacked over the hips, reaching through the crown of the head, shoulders down and back. Invite a few deep breaths just to notice what you feel. Maybe visualizing the scaffolding of that breath as you're inhaling, we're pushing into the sitting bones to find a little bit of lift. And as we exhale, we want to maintain that scaffolding but let the air kind of roll away. So try not to overthink it or overdo it, but just notice pulling the chest back, reaching through the crown of the head. The reading today is from the Yamas and the Niyamas, and if you don't already have this book, it's one of my favorites. It's by Deborah Adele, and it's fantastic, little snippets. This is called The Fruits of the Practice. I am always fascinated when a fresh, new idea seems to hit human consciousness everywhere at once. It's almost like we, as a race, suddenly grew up and were ready to take in a new framework for understanding ourselves. I know this is true when the idea simultaneously appears in various books and even finds its way into a bumper sticker. This quote by Jacqueline Small is an example of an idea previously unheard of hitting en masse. We are not human beings trying to be spiritual. We are spiritual beings trying to be human. This statement is profound as it shifts the direction of our eyes from looking upward to the heavens to focusing on the humanity here on earth. The question becomes, how do we live within the limits of a body and a place and a time? How do we get along with others and share resources? How do we walk into the fullness of our humanity, creating and enjoying the many opportunities we have to experience life in all its forms, and have as much delight in life as possible? How do we become skilled and masterful in our humanity? In the practice of the ethical guidelines of the Yamas and the Niyamas, we are steadily taken from self-centeredness to the perfection of humanness in its fullest expression. When you're ready, inhale, we'll lift the arms up, find whatever height that's comfortable for you. Lift the gaze. As we exhale, we'll turn the palms and let the chin start to float down. Add a pause if you want to. Don't add a pause if it doesn't feel comfortable. Just gently moving. Next time we reach up, we're going to start to spiral on the twist. Inhale up, and as we exhale, we'll go to the left. Next inhale, we'll come up. And exhale, we'll go to the right. So just find a steady, slow little rhythm for those shoulders, gently moving from side to side. If you don't want to lift the gaze, you can just turn the head from side to side without stressing about it. Next time the arms are up at center, we'll just exhale them out to the sides until the shoulders are level. With the hands, we'll flip the palms up, relax the shoulders a little bit. Hug the belly, make sure we're still kind of rolled back a little bit, arms open like we've got little platters. And we're just gonna gently hug the platters in and then press the platters out a little bit. We don't even have to straighten the arms all the way, just hug them in a little bit and press them out. Make sure that we don't start to round or we don't start to hug the shoulders in too much, just opening and closing a little bit. Nice, arms will float all the way up. Easy twist to the left when you're ready on that exhale. And then hang out here for a few rounds of breath, taking what you need, maybe turning the head from side to side, maybe not. Staying here, left ear is gonna lower towards that left shoulder and right arm can reach out in front. Make sure that right ear is still lifting up a little bit more towards the ceiling so you feel it on the right side of that neck. Head will come back to center. On the inhale, arms float up and gently over to the other side on that exhale. Settling here for a few breaths, lifting that chest up towards the chin. It helps support the low back. Anytime you're ready for it. Right ear is going to lower towards that right shoulder, left ear lifting up towards the ceiling, still staying twisted to the right. We're just moving that left arm out in front until we feel a little bit of connection to the left side of that neck. Gently, head will come back up to center, arms will come out. This time we'll inhale, arms up. As we exhale, let them come back level with the shoulders, just like we did before. We'll turn the palms up, relax the shoulders a little bit. As we inhale, we're gonna turn the thumbs up, and as we exhale, we're gonna close the arms, crisscrossing any way we want to. Inhale, we're gonna sit up tall, maybe walk those elbows a little bit closer together. As we exhale, hug the belly and start to hinge forward just a little bit. Not so far that you feel like you're gonna fall over, but enough that you feel the torso engaging, and then we'll come back up. So bobbing with the breath. As we exhale, we're gonna add some sounds. We're gonna grrr as we come forward, and then we're gonna inhale back up to center. And this time as we exhale, we're gonna shh. And then we're gonna come back up, and this time we're telling secrets. We're psst, psst. And then come back up. Last one, this time we're gonna go like we're blowing out a bunch of birthday candles. So easy inhale at the top, and then come back up. And then if you want to try it one more time, that last breath of a with the birthday candles should feel like a corset holding all the way around. As you engage, we're wrapping that corset nice and tight. So if you want to try it, big inhale, exhale, build the corset, and then come back up. Take a peek at the arms on top. We're going to switch, so open them out nice and big. Crisscross when you're ready. Roll the shoulders down and back. Walk the elbows as much as we can. Roll the shoulders back a little bit. Sometimes we cross them, we automatically hinge forward a little bit. So keep them back. Elbows to one side, chin to the other. And then maybe explore that idea of the sound of the corset again. You can, or you can purse the lips a little more and tiny little breath. Other side when you're ready. Elbows to one side, nose to the other. Back through center, release. Let everything come out. Add any movement that you need, one at a time or together. We'll switch the little crisscross if you have a lead leg. If you don't have one, you don't need to worry about it. Adjust the flesh, roll the shoulders back. I'm elevated, so I'm gonna bring a block out in front for the forward hinge. Inhale, make a little space, and exhale, we'll start to come forward. Anywhere you wanna come forward, we have choices. The farther away I walk my hands, the more strain that's likely to put on the low back. So instead of walking the arms farther away, deepen the bend in the elbows so I can still keep the support under my shoulders. Soften the crown of the head, soften the jaw. Hug the belly a little bit. We'll add the hot potato, a little hot plate underneath. We're gonna tent the fingers, and as if we don't wanna leave the fingers in any one place too long, we're just gonna start to walk them away a little bit. You should feel this in the belly as we're gripping. If you don't feel it, you can hinge forward a little bit more. If it's too intense, keep the hands really close to the body, but as we begin to widen the hands, the more difficult it becomes. Yeah. Nice flat back, like we've got a broom handle up against the spine, all the way up to the crown of the head. Good adjustments. Gently all the way back up. And we'll meet in tabletop. So in our tabletop, we're gonna take one block with us, and we're gonna put it in between our shins. Put it somewhere that's comfortable here. It's traditionally a little bit closer to the knees than you think it's gonna be. So if I pick my feet up, hopefully you can see I've got it right in between the shins there. I'm just setting it down. Blanket underneath if you need it. Just moving through our pelvic tilts. Wrists under shoulders, knees under the hips. As we inhale, we let the belly drop, shoulders roll back, we gaze out. As we exhale, push the hands and start to squeeze the block between the shins. So inhale, we're soft and easy, relaxing. As we exhale, hands push and shins squeeze together. You should feel it in the belly. Now we're gonna come down to our forearms, anywhere that's comfortable for you. Make sure that the elbows aren't too wide and we're collapsed through the shoulders. You wanna hug those elbows in until they're directly under the shoulders. Belly's gonna drop a little bit, but we wanna hug it so it's supported. Squeeze the block and we're gonna pick the block up off the floor a little bit, lifting the shins. If it's painful for the knees, you don't need to worry about it, but we're gonna see if we can pick it up just a couple times. Awesome. Back up into tabletop. You can take the block out and set it off to the side and then swing through the hips. Easy open. We'll kick that left leg off to the side, make a little kickstand. Right leg extends and we open the whole body to that right side, stacking everything on the left. Anything you want to do with that top arm, make sure you can see it. We don't want it behind you. Press the hips forward, reach through the hand like you're reaching for something up there. If you want the work, we can hug the belly and lift that right leg up off the floor. You don't have to, or we could pick it up and swing it in front and tap the floor in front of our belly button. Anytime we do these, you don't have to do 15, just a couple. And back down into tabletop. Take a few rounds of cat-cow without the block and see if you like it with or without the block better. Still being mindful about the sternum and not rounding through the shoulder blades into that cat shape. Trying to find easy inhale and then that flat back. Is it the same in your low belly and your abs as it was with the block? If it's not, we've got to think about it a little bit to build that same engagement. Right foot's going to pick up, we'll kick it off the side, little kickstand, left leg extends. Open everything up to the left, stack it all on the right side. Lift that left arm up, but don't let it be behind you. Make sure you can see it. Hip bones press forward, right arm presses into the floor. And if you want to lift that left leg, feel free. You can lift it and lower it. You can lift it and swing it out in front. Back to tabletop. Anytime you're ready, we'll shake it out. Coming into a wide leg downward dog. So we're going to take a minute to walk the knees a little bit wide, tuck the toes, hug the belly, lift up and send the hips all the way up. Take a peek at your feet, and if they are not the width of your mat, walk them until they are. And then kick the heels out so the toes are in and bend the knees. Yep, just press through the chest. See if you can breathe here for a moment. Thinking about the pelvic floor in this particular shape. As we inhale, it's like the sits bones are blossoming up towards the ceiling, opening the pelvic floor. Walk the hands all the way to the back, deep bend in the knees. Sink down nice and low, arms will come out in front, and we'll push all the way up. Nice. All right, we're going to take the same block that we had before and we're going to bring it back into the same place in between the shins. It may be a little different now that we're standing because we want to make sure that we don't drop it, but find a place that feels comfortable. And we're just going to practice using the block in mountain pose. So take a second and waddle yourself into your mountain pose. And you can decide, I have mine, we still should be able, theoretically, if you remember, our two fists together is our personal pelvis. So the block should be not making you wider. If you take your block and you make it super narrow, your feet might actually not be under your hips. So just make sure that the block feels comfortable. Just like I wouldn't want anybody to stand with their block like that. That is definitely not going to make me stable. So keep it nice and easy underneath. All right, feet planted. Hug the belly, shoulders back. Find your mountain pose here. We should be able to pick up all the toes, spread them out, and feel the four corners underneath. Find a little bit of engagement in that block. We're going to start to rise on the inhale and lower on the exhale. It doesn't need to be a lot, but squeeze the block for that balance and stability. As we inhale, we float up. See what it feels like. And as we exhale, we're gonna come down a little bit. Does having the block in there all of a sudden engage a whole different part of the body that maybe we should be using but aren't using? One more if you want to do it. And then we'll take the block out, set it down, build your mountain pose without it, shake it out a little bit. We'll see if we can do the same thing. Roll the shoulders back, pick up the toes, spread them out. Soften down. As we inhale, we're gonna rise up. And as we exhale, we're gonna come down. Just notice and observe if you feel more or less stable with or without the block, or more aware. And then gently shake it all out. All right, we're gonna take our block and put it up in between the thighs. Usually for me, it's the little block, little square facing you. You can decide. If you're tall, you could maybe do it a little bit longer, but my thighs are not that tall, so wherever you are. All right, so we're gonna practice the 3 different sounds. You can just hang out and stand and notice what you feel, or you can sink down into your chair pose a little bit. Easy inhale, and as we exhale, we're gonna lower down a little bit. Grrr. And then we're gonna stand right back up. Easy inhale, and as we exhale, shh. Next one's the secrets. Psst, 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 psst. And we'll come back up. We're going to take it a little bit deeper into a full chair. So let the arms float out. Easy inhale. As we exhale, we're going to sink down. And then we're going to see if we can grr our way up on the exhale. When you're ready, grrr. And notice what you feel. And this time we're going to shush the shh on the exhale. So when you're ready, find your little chair, sink on down. We're gonna hold it here, engage the thighs, double check we see the toes. If we can't, we have to send the booty back a bit more. And when you're ready, on the exhale, make your shush. Shh. Nice. Last one is the psst. You can make one long psst, or you can make a bunch of psst, 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 whatever makes sense. But it's P-S-S-T is the sound we're trying to make. When you're ready, we'll sink down. Check the toes, arms engaged a little bit, hug the belly, and give it a go on your exhale. Psst, 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 psst. And then let everything come back down. And then we're going to try our woo or our candle blowing breath. You can leave the block in or you can set it out, but just notice what it feels like. Find your chair, sink on down. Easy inhale here. And as you exhale, blow out a bunch of candles. And then we can let our block go. Add some empty coat sleeves. And just notice, it's been a while since we've done our pelvic floor series, but the reason we use the sound is it connects the vocal diaphragm with all of our cylinder of muscles here and our actual diaphragm to the pelvic floor, and being able to use all those things, especially when we sit. Most people, when we stand up, that's where we have the likeliness of leakage as we're standing up. But if we exhale while we are rising up from a chair, we're maintaining the pressure inside that system, and we can hold everything in, and we're less likely to leak. But that's a common place where it might happen. All right, so we're going to work on our warrior 2, still thinking about all of this space in the cylinder. Left leg's going to step to the side, right leg's going to walk out. Left toes are going to be the top of our warrior 2, so point them towards the short edge of your mat, and we're going to bend that left knee. Right toes are going to come in, and just take a minute to build something that feels like warrior 2. And then think about the hip bones, the little hip points here. We're pretty good about always pushing through the right leg so that we don't have our hip bones collapse to the floor. But if it's helpful to think about pulling up the pubic bone or grabbing your pants on the front and pulling them up a little bit, that's the action we're thinking about here. lifting the belly button up a tiny bit. So just so you can experiment and explore, let the hip bones drop a little bit to the floor. And then think about pulling them back up. And then let them drop a little bit to the floor. And I'll turn sideways so you can see a little bit better. But it's the kind of sagging, it's that low back that pulls, and then we're lifting. And then we're dropping, and then we're lifting. And pretty quickly you can tell what feels like you've got the build. Arms will float out. We'll flip the palms over. As we inhale, we're going to straighten everything, hands overhead. As we exhale, we're going to look to the left and watch that knee as we bend. Make sure the knee is opening to the left. 2 more breaths just like that. Doesn't need to be crazy. Inhale, we lift. And exhale, we build it. Using both legs and keeping those hip bones pointed forward. Last one. Back hand's going to drop. We're going to lift that left hand up towards the ceiling. Reach a little bit more, maybe look up. Arms will come back out. We'll straighten and let everything lower. Heel toe in. Build your mountain pose. And just stand for a second and see how it feels through the hip space. And then we'll build it on the other side after you've had a moment just to see what you feel without judgment. Right leg's going to step out. Right toes are going to turn towards the top of the mat. Left leg's just going to heel toe back until we get something comfortable. We'll bend that right knee, open everything out, flip the palms up, relax the shoulders, and then turn the palms down and push a little bit. You don't need to make the exaggerated pelvic tilts here, but think about finding a little more engagement in the belly, lifting the pubic bone up towards the ribs a little bit. Double check the right knee is opening to the right. And then 3 breaths here. As we inhale, we straighten everything, lift and reach through the fingers. As we exhale, we arrive and watch that knee. Back hand's going to drop. We're going to flip that right hand up and lift it up towards the ceiling. If you notice you straighten that front leg at all, sink back in. Let everything come down. We'll straighten the right leg and heel toe in. Find your mountain pose, relax. You can close the eyes here or you can leave them open. You get the benefit of me reteaching my pelvic floor series again, so you guys get to go through some of it. You can touch them with your hands or you can visualize them in your mind, but we've got the hip bones up at the front, anterior superior iliac spine. They're the top of that iliac crest, the hip bones. The little parts that point out in front are part of the pelvic floor in the front. We've got the pubic bone right down here in the front. It's not actually a bone, it's the 2 pieces that come together, and there's a little bit of cartilage here that actually make the pubic bone. In the back, we're pretty good about knowing where our sitting bones are, but that's the thing that our pelvis sits on when we sit on the floor. So they're deep up in our glutes. And then we've got our tailbone. So if you can visualize laying on the floor looking up and seeing the tailbone and the pubic bone, and then our hip bones out front, you've got that diamond shape. Can you visualize that diamond shape underneath? And then instead of doing Kegels where we just grab everything and pull it to the middle, imagine that you're putting your hand down on the floor to pick up a tissue and you're grabbing it and lifting. So gently as you're standing here, just think about taking everything and lifting it up a little bit. As we inhale, everything is open and soft. As we exhale, we're lightly drawing those corners towards each other and up. Nothing super aggressive, easy inhale, that's always open. And as we exhale, we're drawing those things in and up. So just allow yourself to visualize a few rounds of breath. And then once you're done just isolating this idea of the diamond shape down here on the bottom, think about the pelvic floor, the diaphragm that's moving everything when we breathe, and then the throat. And if it's helpful on the inhale, we want to think about it like curtains. We're fanning everything open So throat and diaphragm and pelvic floor are open. And as we're exhaling, we're gently drawing those curtains closed. It's the same thing we're doing in the bottom. We're lifting a little bit, but we're closing everything. It's that closing that gives us the strength when we're coming up and down from our seats. So just think about billowing the curtains open as we inhale and gently drawing them closed as we exhale, inviting the cylinder awareness around the rib cage. Fanning curtains open on the inhale, drawing curtains closed on the exhale. And then we're going to step back into Warrior Two and see if we can visualize that same thing. Left toes are going to come to the top. Right toes are going to come back. And actually, let's put the left foot on a block to make it a little deeper, but we don't have to be in it as long. So left foot's going to come on top of the block. Toes pointed towards the top. Right leg, we're going to heel toe back a little bit, and then we'll bend this left knee. It's much easier to get this front thigh parallel to the floor, but it doesn't have to be. Right toes are dialed in a little bit. We think about lifting the pubic bone up a little bit so we're good and flat through the belly. Arms are going to come out. Something sustainable. If you need to flip the palms, relax and turn them down, feel free. Gently think about drawing the feet together a little bit. Notice what you feel. And then see if you can roll the shoulders down and back and imagine billowing the curtains open while we inhale and drawing them closed while we exhale. And then take 2 breaths, visualizing easy inhale. And as we exhale, we're lifting those 4 corners towards each other and up towards the belly button. Does it change the stability you feel in Warrior Two? Let the hands float down. Heel toe, right leg in until it's underneath the hip. And then step down off of the blocks and just take another moment in mountain pose. To integrate, we're going to sink down into a little chair pose, nothing crazy. Visualize that we are on planks, and we're going to start by drawing the planks together, pulling the feet towards each other, and then thinking about pushing the planks apart. So the knees aren't doing anything, but we're thinking about pulling the boards together and pushing the boards away, and pulling the boards together and pushing the boards away. You should feel it in the belly, you should feel it in the feet. We don't want to push so hard that you're feeling it in the knees. And then rise all the way back up and build your mountain pose. Notice where you're feeling that, because if we're feeling all of that in the low back, we're probably dropping the hip bones to the floor. We need to be a little more mindful about lifting them up. We'll take the block over to the right side so we can build our Warrior Two with our foot on the block. Right toes will come on top, and we'll heel toe back with that left leg. Once you get it back, remember we want to dial left toes in about 45 degrees. Double check that your right toes are pointed exactly towards the top of the mat. Settle in, arms out, palms up, and then flip them over and settle in. Draw the feet towards each other and use that to help you lift the pubic bone up a little bit. 2 breaths, billowing the curtains, easy, effortless inhale. You should find softness here. And as we exhale, we're lightly drawing everything towards the midline. And then 2 breaths, just thinking about the diamond of that pelvic floor. Nothing on the inhale, but on that exhale, we're taking those 4 corners and lifting them up like we're pulling a tissue up towards the belly button. Release everything, heel toe that left leg in. Step the right leg down. And just take a moment, observe what you feel. Reach through the crown of the head. Heel toe the feet a little bit wider than your hips. They don't need to be crazy wide. Toes are gonna walk out a tiny bit, but we're not like ready for goddess or anything. They're just a little bit wide. Arms are gonna float up, palms up. They don't have to be directly in front. You can tilt the palms up to help you roll the shoulders back. Lead with the chest, almost like you're pressing the hip bones and the chest forward. We're gonna lift and see if we can hold this whole shape for a few breaths. Recognizing that the arms are heavy, but we're trying to use the breath here. Softness on that inhale, let them float out. And as we exhale, we imagine pulling everything into the heart. One more breath. Let the hands turn and float all the way down. Add some shoulder shrugs or anything else you need. Empty coat sleeves if you want them. All right, and we'll do our inline walking starting anywhere you want to. Just remember when you get to the end, walk backwards, don't turn around. Anywhere you are, find the feet. Find the spot out in front. And you can swing the leg up high and nestle it, or we can simply walk it in front. But just take your time. Flat footprints. We don't want to leave spots where we can't see the foot. When you reach the end of your road, pause in mountain before you make your way back. Ask yourself if you feel more awareness of the cylinder as you're moving backwards in space. Without judgment, if you don't, that's okay. But hopefully you do. Nice. Take the feet a little bit wide. Toes are going to dial out. We're going to sink down into a chair and then make our way into all fours. So when you're ready, arms will float out easy. Inhale. So we exhale, we're going to sink down. See if you can hinge forward enough that the hands get close enough to the floor that we can allow them to touch. We'll walk the hands forward until the knees come down. Awesome. Perfect. Optional child's pose. If you want it, you can sink on back. Otherwise, we're all going to meet all the way down on our bellies. So if you want to pause in child's pose, you can. And if that's not your jam, just all the way down to the belly. If you are in child's pose, think about the pressure on that belly and the broadening through the side ribs. And if you're all the way down, we can enjoy the pressure of the floor on the belly, the hip bones touching. Wherever you are, it should be a place of relaxation. So maybe drop in and notice what you feel on the diamond of that pelvic floor, what you feel through the cylinder of the rib cage. And if you're not all the way down yet, take a moment and meet me on your belly. Once we get there, we'll extend the legs out long, lengthening tops of feet on the floor. We're working on opposite sides. The caveat here is that if you're comfortable lifting the opposite arm and the leg, you can. If you don't want to lift the opposite arm and the leg, you can lift one arm and then go back and do it again and lift a leg. So they don't all have to lift together. When you're ready, arms out nice and wide in a little Y shape. We're mirroring, the whole body kind of looks like an X. When you're ready, hips press in. We're going to dial that right thumb up towards the ceiling or plan on lifting that right hand. Hips push in. Inhale and peel. Start with the right arm, lift it up, and see if you feel comfortable lifting the left leg. It may be easier to balance it out. Anything that's touching the floor, push into the floor to help you stay level, and then lift everything else. Watch the crown of the head. We want to tuck the chin and reach through the crown of the head. One more breath here, just holding what we can hold, and then gently come back down. Bend the knees and add some windshield wipers. We're going to do the same side one more time for anybody who decided not to lift everything together. You can lift the other appendage that you didn't do, but still it's right arm, left leg, or one of those pieces. Press the hips, inhale, start to feel the chest. Maybe it's the right arm and the left leg. You don't have to lift them up as much, but as we inhale, we're finding lift and pushing the left hand and the right foot into the floor. As we exhale, we're finding length, extension through the things that are up in the air. All the way back down when you're ready. Shake the hips out. It's the same idea as the windshield wipers. We're just going to do one leg at a time. Focus on trying to keep the hip bones and the tops of the thighs somewhat connected to the floor. And I say thighs because sometimes when we lay down like this, you feel more connection with the thighs than the hip bones. So wherever you are, we're going to bend the right knee, flex that right foot, and slowly bring the right foot across the midline, moving to the left. You can go as far as you want to go, but don't let the hips come off the floor. So the minute that the right hip pops up, we went too far. And then we're going to open it out to the side. Same thing. We're opening, 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 only as much as we can go. And then back to the midline, and back to the outside, and then we'll set it down. But don't let me rush you. Take your time. You can even keep your right hand underneath that right hip bone so you can feel as it loses connection. Then we'll extend the right leg out and do the same thing on the left side. One leg at a time. We bend the left knee, flex the left foot. Bring the foot across the midline, but put your little fingers under that left hip bone so you can feel it. And then open out. You'll feel all that increased contact on the hip bone. Back to the midline. Back to the outside, and then gently set it down, shake it out. Opposites on the other side when you're ready. Arms and body will come back into that little X shape. This time we're lifting left hand and right leg, or some version of those. Press the hips into the floor, inhale, we peel the chest, lift left arm, right leg, or some version. Everything else is touching the floor. As we inhale, we find height. As we exhale, we tuck the chin and reach through the crown of the head and the fingers and the toes to find extension. One or two more breaths here, finding softness, hip bones pushing into the floor. Eventually come back down. Notice what you feel here. If all you're feeling is in your back, we want to make sure that we're using the belly and engaging to create support and scaffolding on the front side. Last time, always your choice. If you lifted both on this previous one, you don't need to do it again if you don't want to. Press the hips, inhale, we'll lift some version of left arm and right leg. Finding height, but most importantly, think about the front side of the body. Hip bones to those bottom ribs should be strong and supported, lengthening. And then we'll meet back down on the floor. We're going to roll onto the left side. Feel free to grab a blanket to put under or over that left arm, or you can use the left arm like a little pillow. Building our chair pose on this left side. We're going to bring the knees out a little bit, so we've got about 90 degrees behind the knees. Clamshells. So keep the feet stuck. We're just opening the knees and the thighs. Hug the belly. When you're ready, we're going to open that top leg up, but don't roll back. Don't let the hip bones point anywhere other than in front. We open. And then once we get it open, think about pulling that pelvic floor in and up a little bit. And then we gently close it and relax. And then maybe we just do 3 of those. Once we get it open, we hug the belly. Think about drawing the pelvic floor together. And then we'll let it come back down. One more if you want to do it. Let the knees come back down. Reverse clamshell. Knees stay put. And now we're opening the feet apart from each other. So when you're ready, that right foot is going to lift up as high as we want to lift it. And once we get it up there, we do the same thing. Easy inhale, and on the exhale, we see if we can draw the pelvic floor in and up, picking up that tissue. And then let the leg come back down. We'll do the same thing again, lifting that top foot up. Try to keep the bottom edge of your foot parallel to the floor. Draw the pelvic floor in and up. And then gently let the foot come back down. One more if you're going for it. You don't have to. Top foot lifts. Bottom edge of that foot, inner edge of that foot is parallel to the floor if we can get it. Draw the four corners of that diamond in your mind and gently gather them towards the center while lifting. And we'll put it back down. We'll roll on our backs to add a few pelvic tilts before we continue the journey over to that right side. Feet planted, knees bent. As we inhale, we're rocking that pelvis forward, low back comes off the mat. As we exhale, we hug the belly, scoop the tailbone, push the feet. And then we'll meet rolled over on that right side. You can use the right arm as a little pillow if you want to. Hug those feet out a little bit so that you can build 90 degrees behind the knees. Double check the knees here. Often when we lay on our side, one knee is behind the other. We want those knees level. If my knees are not in line with each other, then I'm rolling a little bit back, and that's hard on my SI joint. So just take a second, level those feet and knees out, and that'll let us know the hips are stacked. Clamshells when you're ready. We'll hug the belly, lift that top knee up as high as we can get it. We're gonna hold there. And then think about pulling that pelvic floor, drawing the corners in and up. And then release the knees back down. Two more at your own pace. If it's helpful when you get that top knee lifted, you can even think about squeezing the heels together as we draw that in and up. Try to remember to use the exhale for that exertion. And then pause before we get into our reverse clamshell. Just give yourself a moment. Double check knees are stacked. We keep the knees together, we flex the feet, and we lift that left foot up. Take a peek at the foot, level the toes out so the toes are pointed out in front. And then here, maybe we think about squeezing the knees together on that exhale and drawing the pelvic floor in and up. Let the foot come down. Two more of those at your own pace. Anytime we work on these, there's a lot of kind of mental gymnastics that you're going through to build the landscape and figure out what you're doing. So just be patient and don't stress. And after you've done 3 of those, we'll roll back onto our backs. Hug the knees into the chest. Add any movement that you need for yourself from knees into the chest. You can start to make circles if that's comfortable, massaging the low back and anywhere else that you need. And then we'll plant the feet down. If you have your block, we're going to work on the internal hip flexor kind of supported shape. We're going to heel toe the feet a little bit wider than the mat. We flex the feet so the heels are down and toes are up, and then we'll drop both of the knees over to the left. That right knee is coming towards the midline of the mat. That's where we want to take our block and see if we can put it somewhere underneath the right thigh or the right knee. It depends on how close that right knee gets to the floor. I want you to feel like there's a little bit of support there to help hold you. So I actually have my right block almost under my right butt cheek to help hold a little bit instead of the knee, because that feels more supportive to me. So don't be afraid to move the block around underneath that right leg anywhere you can. Soften the left leg to the floor as if it's in cobbler's pose, recognizing that if it gets tight or crampy and you need to pull it in, that's okay. Then we focus on opening it out. 90 degrees behind the right knee and right shin parallel to the bottom edge of your mat. Same thing we did in our Warrior Two pose. Think about pulling the pubic bone towards the bottom ribs just a little bit. We're hugging the belly and lifting, so we get a little bit of that tilt of the pelvis. And then roll back through center, hug the knees in, or take any movement you need. You can leave the block where it is. You'll need to move it when we get to the other side. Knees bent, feet planted. We'll heel toe the feet wider than the mat. Heels down, toes up, so feet are flexed. Everything drops to the right. And then we decide if the block's in a good spot for that left leg or not. 90 degrees behind that left knee. Double check that it feels like the right shin is parallel to the short edge of the mat. Right leg is in cobbler's pose, so we're trying to soften that leg out as much as we can. Release the effort to hold that. And then think about the shape of the pelvis itself. We're taking those hip bones and we are drawing them towards the bottom ribs, or we're taking the pubic bone and picking it up as if we're pulling on a diaper or pulling the front of that up. Flex that left foot. And then release all of that, come back to center. And in your mind, maybe just notice if one side felt less challenging than the other. We'll squeeze knees in nice and tight, right leg in, left leg out. Lengthen as much as we can. Keeping left leg up, we're gonna hug the belly. Think about the low back, flatten it to the floor. It's gonna lift the left leg up a little bit, no big deal. Point and flex both feet with that low back supported. Add some circles, some windshield wipers, anything you want. Anchor down through left leg, open right knee out to the right. We'll hug that right knee back in and switch sides. Left knee comes in, right leg out, lengthen as far as we can, and then flatten the low back to the floor. We'll push through the heels and then point the toes and add any movement for the feet here, but don't let the low back lose connection. Then both knees will come back in. Softly open them out to the side a little bit. Not all the way into anything that's like a happy baby, just letting the body kind of settle out with the legs open in some space. Low back should be supported here. And then we'll plant the feet down and start to build any version of your Shavasana shape that would make you happy. If you want to elevate the legs, grab a bolster or scooch on over to the wall. I don't know about you, it's gotten cold in my room, so I gotta put my sweater back on. So if you need to add some layers, feel free. You can always put the legs up on a sofa or a chair or anything that you've got in the room. And if you want to revisit that idea of the vocal cords and the diaphragm and the pelvic floor connected, feel that on those inhales. Everything is open and spacious. On the exhale, the body knows exactly what to do to gently hug those organs back in. Heaviness through the shoulders, through the hips. Anything else touching the floor. Invite a lightheartedness to the front side of the body. In a few minutes, I'll invite you back. Start to deepen the breath. Invite your mind back to the space. You can wiggle fingers and toes and let that become whatever movement you need. Maybe a big full body stretch, a little sigh of yawn. We'll make that right seated shape when you get there. Laying the arms up overhead, palms to touch. And bring them down to the forehead. May your mind be full of positivity and possibility. To your lips, may your words be full of kindness and compassion. And to your heart center, your heart be full of passion and purpose. Namaste.